everybody, it's Georgia Rose, and I am in the soul space. Just took my jacket off. You never know what you're going to get when you tune into the soul space every Monday night at 7, right? But I'm here. I'm here. So I want to welcome everybody. If you're new to the show, I'm here every Monday night at 7 o'clock. And what do we do on the Zencuda Soul Space? We talk about astrology and spiritual wisdom, and we just really are a support community for getting our lives together and on track and really living to our full potential and finding out what the intention of our soul is, and then letting that lead our way. So that's what we do here in the soul space every week. Sometimes we have guests, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we do tarot readings, whatever we can think of in order to bring ourselves into a better way of life and our full potential. So later on in the show, I am going to be reading 2 charts that I chose from viewers that sent me in their birth information. And we're going to be doing that every week as a live thing on the show, a new live feature on the Zencuda Soul Space. So if you have your birth date with time and place, you can send that in either to my email at connect, the word connect, at zencuda.com, or you can just PM me on any of our social media sites. That's Zencuda Official on Instagram, Zencuda Soul Space on Facebook. And I will collect your info, run your chart, and every week, like I say, I'm going to pick 2. I had a lot of people actually already send in their chart information. So be patient and tune in every week, and your chart will be read. So tonight, I want to talk a little bit about the astrology, because we did just have, in the middle of the night last night here in the East Coast of New York, check your own local time, a beautiful lunar eclipse in Libra. And that was very, very powerful. It is aspecting the south node of the moon, which has a lot to do with our past and our past behaviors. It's in the Libra Aries axis of the zodiac. So for those of you who are Libra and Aries, sun, moon, or rising out there, you're feeling this quite a bit. I know my Libra sun has been kind of draggy and tired for the last few days with the south node on it. But generally speaking, this is an axis of relationship, and not just relationship with each other, but also the relationship we have with everything in the world. Libra, which is ruled by Venus, and Aries, which is ruled by Mars, is basically how do you relate to the world? How do you relate to the people in the world? How do you relate to everything? And Libra is a sign where we configure our relationships with the other. It's very much a sign about our relationships with others and our interactions. So if some things are happening or starting to get some, imagery or some intuitive knowing about some things in your life that have to do with relationships, since this beautiful lunar eclipse, full moon last night, those things are going to be in play for quite a while. Eclipses energy can last anywhere from 3 to 18 months, but usually it's about 3 months time frame. But usually we have some pretty intense energy that will happen right around the eclipse. And this eclipse, like I said in many of my videos on YouTube at Zencuda, or even on my Zencuda Soul Space social media page, you'll find videos there specifically about this lunar eclipse and what to expect. We've been talking about it for a few weeks now. Now it's going to be past in a few days, the intensity of it, and we'll be building up to the solar eclipse in Aries on April 8th, which is when whatever is kind of going on right now for you, at the April 8th solar eclipse, you're going to see that now become more clear and your pathway more clear. So right now we're releasing something, letting go of something. Relationship in your life might be changing. The way you relate to something might be changing, very much in the themes of the way that you reacted and responded to things in the past. You're going to see some ways that you're meant to change that. And you may be in a little bit of, maybe a little bit of drift or a little bit of fogginess from that, or a little maybe shock, or even letting go of trauma, or a little bit of grief. It may even be something optimistic where you're happy and ready to let go of it. But you won't know your clear pathway until after April 8th, when the Aries solar eclipse comes. And with that, we're going to have emerging energy and new clarity, and really being shown us where we want to go. So for this week, we have Mars now in Pisces. Mars moved into Pisces just a few days ago on the 22nd. And Mars in Pisces is not a great energy. Mars is our action. It's where we take action in our life. The planet Mars is what inspires us and compels us to action, wherever Mars is in your chart. And when Mars is in Pisces, it's not strong. Pisces is a water energy. Mars likes to be able to move and move quickly, and it's our ambition, our assertion. And in Pisces, which is a very dreamy, water, fluid sign, Mars is a little bit debilitated. So just make sure that you realize that, and that's probably why many of us are tired right now. It's almost like the gas in the car has been watered down and we feel fatigued. That Mars in Pisces will stay with us for a little while. And just around that solar eclipse, which is the next eclipse coming in for us, Mars is going to hook up with Saturn. And I'll be there to tell you what that's all about in next week. So Mars in Pisces is going to actually make a lot of conjunctions. It's going to conjunct Neptune, and we just have a lot of Piscean energy right now, which sometimes can cause that drifty feeling, that fatigued feeling, because again, Pisces is an energy of connection, but it's connection not with the material world, but the spiritual world and ethereal things. So when we have a lot of planets in Pisces, we have a tendency to kind of, drift, dissolve, things become very fluid. We're kind of, passive. We're not so aggressive. Our ambition's a little bit waned. And that's why I wanted to do this show tonight about boundaries, because with all the Piscean energy that we have, it really can be a dissolution of boundaries in our life. And when we have a lot of Piscean energy in the world, in the cosmos, and several planets in Pisces like we do now, it can be a time when boundaries dissolve and people don't respect boundaries. And we even have a hard time setting our own boundaries. So as our week progresses this week, we're going to see that Libra full moon that we just had, that was at 5 degrees Libra around 3 a.m. That happened last night at 3 in the morning. And then as soon as that happened, we had, just got to put this over here so I can read. We have Pluto and Mars coming into an aspect, and that will also not give Mars energy that we need, but it's going to make us maybe feel more in touch with our desires. Pluto is a planet of desire. So when Mars and Pluto are in aspect, and Pluto is in Aquarius and Mars is in Pisces, what can happen is we may have trouble really zoning in on our desires. We may kind of drift and 1 minute want this and the next minute want that. And that can really cause us to feel like we've got this push-pull kind of energy. And that also brings in fatigue. On the morning of the eclipse, the sun does a half square to a planet called Uranus, which I talk about a lot. And that's something that disrupts us. It can be problematic. It can be, minor, but it can be something that just disrupts our routine today or made today feel very glitchy. What I personally noticed was that a lot of people just seemed out of sorts today, like kind of cranky or very hyper vigilant, like everyone was a little bit needy and wanted a lot of attention. I got pulled in a lot of different directions with that energy today. And then Tuesday, tomorrow, the 26th, the moon moves into Libra. And when the moon moves into, the moon is in Libra, but it's going to be at 22 degrees. It's going to start to move towards Scorpio. And when the moon finally goes into Scorpio later in the week, the energy really changes, because now we get a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more intense, and that'll help us with that Mars and Pisces. But for today, for tomorrow, for Tuesday, the moon moves out of Libra at the end of the day, and it starts to become opposite Chiron. And when the moon does that, it opposites Chiron. Chiron is the planet of where we're healing. So whatever was brought out for you this weekend during that full moon lunar eclipse, towards the end of the day tomorrow into Wednesday, it may start to, if it was something that brought you trouble or unsettling or, revealed something that maybe you are having an issue with that's not pleasant, tomorrow and into Wednesday when the moon comes in contact with Chiron, it may reveal to you where the medicine, where the healing is, where the comfort is for you. This can also continue the theme that happened on the full moon eclipse. And that's why I say eclipses last a long time. Their energy sometimes can be really dragged on. And in this energy, it really will be. And the themes for the eclipse specifically are that Aries energy, which is impulsive, it's outward, it is the relationship that we have in regards to ourself. Like when we're in Aries energy, or we have a lot of planets in Aries, which of course is the opposite of Libra, where we had this eclipse. We're going to have the solar eclipse in Aries next month. Aries energy is all about me. It's more or less, I am present. Where do I want to take up space in my life? Where do I want to give my energy to? Where do I not want to give my energy to? That's Aries. Aries is all about taking up space and being present. And so when I say Aries is about me, it is because in the Aries type of archetype, we relate to those things in reference to what is it for me? What is it going to do for me? Where do I want to be? Where do I want to be present? Where do I want to take up space? And the axis, the opposite part of the zodiac, Libra, where that eclipse came in, is an energy of the other. How what the other does makes me relate. How do I relate to the other? And many times when we run Libran complexes, and we all have Libra in our chart, somewhere in some house, there's an area where you have Libra. And that's where you run complexes where either, and these complexes are run to avoid conflict. So and this is why I want to talk about boundaries tonight. So wherever Libra is in your chart, you will run complexes oftentimes because we're conditioned to act and think a certain way. And a typical Libra complex is, your friends want to go somewhere, or you're with a group, you're vacationing, and they all want to go somewhere. They want to go to this club tonight, or they want to go to lunch at a certain time. And if Libra doesn't want to go, Libra will never simply state the boundary, because Libra would rather die 10,000 painful deaths than going into conflict or addressing the elephant in the room. Libra's just not going to do it. So Libra will start on a campaign of manipulation where, and I know because I'm a Libra sun, so Libra will start on a campaign of manipulation like, you guys really don't want to go to that club. There's a better club, blah, blah, blah. Or why don't we do this instead? Or I can't believe you guys really want to go there. Libra will never state, well, I don't really want to go there. Or maybe I'll meet up with you guys an hour later or whatever. Libra will never do that. So they'll try to control the situation because Libra, wherever that energy is in your chart, whatever house it's in, is where you get anxiety if your fate is left to others' decisions. Like Libra might not have a problem with that lunch or that club. They just don't want to go because they don't want to be in a situation where now they are subject to someone else's whim. They want to control it in order to feel comfortable because Libra is all about balance. And Libra will procrastinate and not want to do something until in their minds it's completely and perfectly balanced. And we all know that rarely happens in life. So Libra has these complexes that they run, right? Whatever place in your chart that Libran energy is, you're going to run those complexes to feel safe and secure. So if Libra can't manipulate their way out of the avoidance or the conflict, then what they do is they just go home. Libra will remove itself from whatever the conflict is just by avoidance. If someone doesn't want to go there, they're just going to book out. And I know this is true because I'm a Libra sun, and the way I've made my own boundaries is, and my friends all know this, when there's ever something to be done or something to be attended to, I hardly ever drive with a group. I hardly ever go with somebody. I'm like the lone wolf. I'm going to get there when I get there because I want to leave when I want to leave, because when I'm done, I'm done. And so I don't want to be in a situation where I'm beholden or trapped or subject to other people's whims of where we're going to go from there, how the night's going to go, when the night's going to end, when the day's going to begin. I like to just, function in my own little space. That's my boundary because that makes me feel safe. So I simply state that. And I'll often, I might have one or two friends I go with or one particular friend because I know she kind of thinks like I do. But I'm not the person who's going to be in the back seat of the three-seater car with 8 other people and you're all deciding how the day's going to go. That is just not me. Not comfortable with it, not doing it. And it's not because I'm a control freak. It's just I like to be free. I like to have some movement of my own. So I've learned how to deal with that Libra complex. So wherever Libra is in your chart, more than likely, it is bringing out something from this eclipse that has to do with those kind of complexes or boundaries. So that's where we're at. Libra is about reflection. It's about the way that we configure our own self through other, right? Just like I don't want to be in the back seat of the car with 10 people deciding what we're doing. That's not how I configure myself. It feels weird. So I configure myself through my own boundary and then my relation with the other. I would love to go out with all of you. Just don't want to be trapped in the car and have my day planned and be on your time schedule. It's a Libra thing. So that's why if you have a place in your chart, if Libra is in your place of work, you're probably going to want to like know what your work day is. When is your lunch break? When do you get your other breaks? What's, the protocol for this? What's the protocol for that? You got to know your environment. So Tuesday, whatever came up, whatever was reflected to you during that lunar eclipse, when Chiron starts to come into play with that, which is the planet of healing, then you're going to see that the issues that came up on the full moon that have to do with the self and other and the boundaries are going to be revealed even more and more as the week goes on. And then on March 27th, towards the end of the week, the moon finally goes, middle of the week, moon Wednesday, moon finally goes into Scorpio. And when the moon goes into Scorpio, the energy really changes. However, I will say Pluto is in Aquarius, which is a fixed sign, and the moon in Scorpio, which is a fixed sign. It kind of be a lot of fixed energy, Wednesday, Thursday. So this can be a little bit of power struggles. But that's good if you, are in something where the dynamic is not in your favor and you don't feel it's equal enough and you need to go into a power struggle to correct it, right? So this is going to be a wonky week. But then when Easter comes, we have some really nice energy. If you celebrate Easter this weekend, if you don't, Saturday and Sunday is going to be some nice energy. We've got Jupiter coming closer to Uranus. We've got some optimism coming in. So it should really be a nice little time period for some really cool astrology. Thursday, there's a flow of energy that can release some pent up energy. So I think that if you have been feeling tired by Thursday, you may feel a little bit more in sync with the world. And then, of course, on the weekend, we've got Friday, Neptune comes in. This is an energy that you really want to pay attention to details. If you're having a holiday or you're having a lot of people, you want to really maybe check everything twice. If anybody's traveling, you want to check your travel plans twice, because in that energy of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, things can be disruptive in the sense of we think something is a certain way and it's not. It can be kind of almost like elusive and an illusion type energy. And then Monday comes in April 1st, and things get a little more serious because the moon goes into Capricorn. But all in all, Easter Sunday, with if you celebrate that, if not, just this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, should be a really nice energy because we have the moon in Sag and some other things happening. So by Saturday, Sunday, the energy that feels kind of heavy or floaty this week will be a little bit more eased up for us. So I want to talk a little bit about boundaries. I'm just going to go to my comments and see where we're at with comments and what people are saying out there, and say hello to some people. Hello, Marianne. Hey, Darlene. Atard is on. Debbie Ann. I got a bunch of other people. Kim Murray, Michelle Oder. Thank you, Michelle Allen Oder. You're on here every week, and I thank you for being so loyal. Sarah, one of our best loyal people. Love you being in the soul space. Dawn Elizabeth, we're going to read her chart in a little bit. Trish Johnston's on. She says, no wonder she was wide awake from 3:05. I have to tell you, that was me Friday and Saturday night. I'm a sleeper, and I just didn't sleep very well at all. And I know it was the moon. Darlene says she was up at 3:39 this morning, couldn't fall back to sleep. Joanna Maya says hi to everybody. Let's send up some hearts for all you beautiful people in the Zencuda community. We've got such a great thing going here every Monday night at 7 o'clock. I hope more and more people join us. It says, share the show if you can. So I want to talk, like I said, about boundaries, because I think the lunar eclipse and also the solar eclipse coming in April may have some themes about boundaries for all of us. I don't know if any of you are feeling that already, but I definitely am. And for me, it's not even boundaries with others. It's more boundaries with myself and trying to really be, for me, setting boundaries is really right now about setting boundaries with myself and trying to be really use my time well and setting boundaries of where I kind of let my energy drift and bringing it back. I've been super, super productive. Y'all know I had a bout with a mobility issue from a fall, and I actually ended up in a wheelchair for 2 weeks. Not fun. Went from crutches to wheelchair to walker to walking. So I can walk now. Not without pain, but it's okay. I'll take it. And so I'm going to PT. I'm good. So I learned a lot about my boundaries during that time because I realized being homebound, how much energy we really kind of waste, just doing stuff that we really don't have to do, how much we get sucked into social media. You really shouldn't spend hours on social media unless it's my stuff. I'm only kidding, just a joke. But have to have a sense of humor. So I've been trying to establish boundaries and limits for myself as far as my time and not wasting time, because I want to be really productive and I want to get a lot of stuff done. And that's been really working for me. And sometimes we have to set boundaries. And I have a lot of people, both in my earthbound job, because, I worked for a company and I train agents and I do wellness for them, and there's 1,700 of them. So there's a lot of pushing and pulling that goes on there. And you have to set some boundaries. And the same in my personal life. I have a lot of people I help, a lot of people that help me, that I want to be able to spend time with, my own mentors and teachers. So I've really had to nail down the time frame and my schedule. And being able to do that in a simply stated way is very important. So for those of you out there who are struggling with that time, and this ties in with the Libra archetype, how do you relate to time? What is your relationship to time? And when you start to set boundaries, whether it's for time or even any other category in our lives, think about what your relationship is to that issue and that boundary. Because the way we relate to that is really what sets it for us. So I did not have a very good relationship with time. I was feeling either I didn't have enough time to do what I wanted to do, or I was finding that when I did have a block of time, whether it was sitting in a doctor's office or waiting for my next appointment or anything, I would become uncomfortable with the block of time unless I was filling it with something. So that's not a good relationship with time. Time is not meant to be feared or squandered. Time is something that we should be controlling for our betterment. So I had to really look at that and say, okay, well, what's my boundary with time and what's my relationship to it? So when we go to set boundaries, what we're really doing is we're establishing limits, and we're establishing our relationship with those limits. So, remember, Libra is all about configuring ourselves through the other. And that's really what a boundary is, right? We're setting something, we're drawing a line in the sand, or we're drawing a circle around something that's acceptable in order to configure our own life in the way we want and what makes us feel safe and comfortable and in our optimum performance. So a couple of things that I, kind of was making notes a little bit this afternoon before the show. Establish your limits, which means clear parameters, right? They're guidelines to operate in. That's really what it is. So before you set boundaries, you have to make sure that your own relationship with what you're about to do is for your betterment. Because I think a lot of times people go to set boundaries and they're doing it out of anger or spite or frustration. And that's really not what you want to do, because the whole idea of those established limits is to make something else better in your life. Make it better for you to function, better for you to feel healthy, better for you to feel balanced. So when you're setting boundaries, just remember that. And what I always say is, in that regard, like, boundaries are super important. They're crucial for self-care. That's really what we're talking about here, is like, boundaries are really about self-care, because when we establish those limits, we are putting energy where we need to for our optimum peak performance and potential. And I kind of like to think of boundaries as I like to think of boundaries as seeing potential come into form, right? Because how many times we have a boundary we want to set with someone and we don't? Like, suppose you have a friend who always overstays their welcome, or they're a long goodbye, right? I used to have a friend that would take 20 minutes to say goodbye in the front hallway, and I'd be like, practically just wanting to put my pajamas on. And then one day I finally said to her, well, I really need to wrap this up at a certain time because I have to get up very early to do a presentation tomorrow, or whatever it was. And then she understood. But how many times I didn't do that, and I really was harming myself, lack of sleep, staying up too late, all because I didn't want to say something. So when we think about those things and in regards to self-care, we've got to really simply state something. And I think that's super, super important. So the other thing I was going to say is that what I found is when I started to get really good at simply stating my boundaries, I found that my relationships were all much more healthy and I really enjoyed them. And that initial I always call it, like that feeling you get in your stomach when you don't want to say something, that anxiety of, maybe I'm going to piss somebody off, or maybe they're not going to like me, or maybe I'm going to go too far and say the wrong thing. That anxiety is alleviated not by suppressing the conversation, not by simply stating what your boundary is. That anxiety is alleviated by stating it, by saying your boundary. That was my experience, and that's what I found, because I found that when I finally set boundaries, I not only felt more comfortable in myself, again, that Libran complex, configuring through the other, as I relaxed, they relaxed, and the relationship, the friendship, whatever it was a lot more comfortable and fun and enjoyable. So we set boundaries for ourselves, really. That's what it's about, and that's self-care. We're not setting a boundary for someone else. And I know many of us, I don't have children, but I know many of you out there with children have had these really tough times when you've had to set boundaries, and it's been really, really hard. So I'm just going to look at the comments. Hey, Monica. Hi, Jay. Haven't seen you in a while. I hope things are good in Tennessee. So that boundary setting, really draw yourself into the introspection of it's for you and it's about your boundary. And when someone doesn't respect it, also have something at the ready of what your intention is if that happens. It's just like I remember a long time ago, and I've used this so much since with other clients. I had someone who was a mentor, a spiritual advisor of mine, and I was in a relationship that was really tough. And I was at a point in the relationship where I wasn't sure if I should call the person or not, because we had been kind of like at a separation. And I remember her saying to me, if you make the call, be prepared for the outcome, whatever it is. And I had to really internalize that and be introspective and think about it and say, yeah, where's my boundary? Like, however this call goes, what's acceptable to me and what's not. So when you set a boundary, be prepared for the outcome. Be prepared that that person may not respect it, understand it, or adhere to it. And then what will you do? Does that mean the relationship is over? Does that mean you have to take another step? So, kind of pre-plan what the boundary is for you. And remember, we don't set boundaries to keep walls up. And a lot of people do that. There's a lot of protection complexes that we run, those self-preservation complexes that are just, false information appearing real, right? Our fear. We run those and we think about a boundary as a wall. Like, I'm just going to cut that person out of my life, cancel culture, because I'm not going there because they ticked me off and I don't want to be ticked off, so I'm not going there. I can guarantee you that person in a different form, face, body, or name will keep coming into your life because there's a lesson there you ain't learning when you cut that off. So is the medicine there? Is the lesson there? Then you got to work it through. So that's why boundaries are so important. A lot of times in the doing and the saying of them, we learn what the lesson is. So remember, it's not walls, it's actually established parameters for you to function better in. That's what a boundary is. All right? A boundary isn't something set that somebody's going to cross, and you set it because you can't wait for them to cross it, because then you're going to have them and you're going to have the upper hand and blah, blah, blah. That's just like really crazy, sick thinking. Boundaries are set to make you more healthy. Boundaries are set for your self-care. Boundaries are set so that you have an operating system where your full potential can be realized. That's what a boundary and established parameter is. So understand the boundaries, communicate them effectively. An example of effective boundary communication would be, I'm in a relationship now, a romantic relationship. We've been in a relationship for a while. And we completely respect each other's boundaries as to when we need alone time. And I absolutely love that about our relationship. It's one of the things that I know I really need, because I do a lot of spiritual work. I do a lot of very deep introspective work in my life. And I need big blocks of time where no one's coming in or out. I'm in my meditation, I'm in my healing room, whatever. And this person I am with really respects that. And by the same token, I respect that he needs to recharge. And oftentimes after he works a lot, he just needs to go home, close the front door, and not be bothered for a day or two. And I'm fine with that. Those are really healthy boundaries. Why are they healthy boundaries? Because it's a place in the relationship where I'm able to say, you know what, I'll see you on the weekend because I just need a few days to recharge. Or I have a really big project at work coming up and I just need a few days to really immerse myself in this presentation. Or I have a series of videos that I want to do on YouTube and I just need some time to go lock myself in the studio. And by the same token, he gets to do that in his way as well. Because we simply state I need to recharge. That's all there is to it, and we respect that in each other. So respect the other's boundaries. And also, I know that this can be a really frustrating thing if you're in relation, whether it's a child, a parent, a romantic partner, a friendship, a boss, a coworker, where someone doesn't respect boundaries. But it's really important to clearly state without emotion sometimes what those boundaries are. Also, this is the other thing I wanted to say. Limits are not about isolation, because a lot of times people will set boundaries, or people will start to, not go out or avoid social situations or avoid family because they're isolating. And that's really, really not a good thing. We don't want to set boundaries so that we can go home and be in our wound, or be home in grief, or be home in negativity. As I said before, boundaries are set so that we have an operating system that makes us comfortable and safe enough to operate in our full potential. That's what boundaries are for. And that's why they're so important. So I'm going to go to comments for a few minutes. We're going to go to commercial, and we are going to, and you're never late. You come in whenever you want. You can always watch replays. Okay, so we're going to go to a commercial really quick, and then when I come back, we're going to read Dawn Elizabeth and Deborah's charts. So stay tuned.
Hey everybody, it's Teresa from Tea Time. What's my show about? I interview people in the entertainment industry, producers, directors, actors, and guess what? My show is on every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on Channel 20 on Optimum TV. So tune in because it's fun, interesting, and exciting.
All right. Is everybody having a good time tonight or what? That's what I thought.
I don't want to come back down from this cloud.
Hi, everybody. I'm back. It's Georgia Rose, and I'm going to start our chart readings tonight with Deborah. And Deborah was born in Southampton, just so you know who you are, because I know we might have more than one Deborah out there. And Deborah, you are an Aries sun, and you are I always do when I'm looking at charts. I don't know why I do that. It's a weird thing. But anyway, you're an Aries sun and a Gemini moon, and you are a Virgo rising. So what does that mean? Well, it means as a Virgo rising, you are someone who more than likely has been brought here, your soul's intention, to heal. Virgo is the sign of healers. It's also the sign of the Virgin, right? Someone who's very pure of heart. But when I look at your chart, one of the things that really stands out for me is right slap dippity dab on your ascendant is Pluto and Uranus. Right together, your ascendant is at 19 degrees of Virgo, your rising sign, and Pluto is at 18 and Uranus is at 21 in that same sign. So what does that mean? Well, in evolutionary astrology, which is the astrology that I practice, which basically is an astrology where we believe that the chart is the map of your life's intention and your soul's intention, your soul's desire in this lifetime. So when I read, I really read into the soul. So the ascendant in the chart is our identity, but it's the identity that we are here to become. It's where the soul discovers itself, where the soul discovers its identity, your identity in this lifetime. So when we see Pluto and Uranus right on the ascendant when you were born, it's a significator that you're coming from a lifetime where perhaps there was quite a lot of trauma, sudden change, and that the reason why you were reincarnated or incarnated in this lifetime with that signature is to overcome it and transcend in this lifetime. So if I had to really look at this, and of course I'm just doing a very brief reading for you, if anything is meaningful for you and you want to go deeper, you can certainly book a private reading. But when I look at this significator, especially in Virgo, this speaks to me of learning through loss. Virgo oftentimes is the place in our life, wherever it is, for if everyone's looking along in their own chart. Virgo, the house where Virgo is oftentimes a significator that you're going to learn through loss. Something in your life is going to be abducted. And we think of abduction as a kidnapping, right? This is something where something is taken away either through death or loss. And that abduction becomes the caveat, the catalyst for complete and total change in the life. So what the real archetype of Virgo does is it will bring in an abduction, a loss, that makes us adjust. And then we find our competence. So your life, your soul's intention in this life is to let you experience loss in order to find your competency. Now, your north and south node, which determine our soul's activation in this life, it tells us, based on our soul's intention, which I just said, your soul's intention was to evolve through loss, to evolve through adoption, to find competency through adjustment. It will activate that by the north and south node of the moon. Your north node is in the 8th house in Taurus, and being in the 8th house in Taurus, that's complete transcendence and transformation, but Taurus is our security. Your south node is in Scorpio, which is our attachments where we merge. The Scorpio-Taurus axis in a chart is all about the merging, the attachment, the self-preservation, and the security. And the polarization of that. What are we attached to so terribly much that we can't let go of and release that stands actually in the way of our security and self-preservation? Because we're in illusion and can't see it's a restriction. So you will undergo the soul's intention in this lifetime, loss or abduction of something, in order to bring you into a field where you become competent through the adjustment of that. It changes you. And then this beautiful north node in the 8th house in Taurus is helping you transcend and transform your belief systems, the way that you look at life. And in that transformation, you find the security and the merging and the true merging, because Scorpio energy is going to allow the attachment to dissolve, to understand the true meaning of merging, and it will reveal that. So if you were sitting in front of me and we were doing a reading, I would probably ask you questions like, where have you experienced loss that put you into transformation, that was a catalyst for deep, meaningful change in your life? And knowing that that was why your soul came here, to have that experience. And it was meant to bring you into your solar light, your light in the world. Again, that first house, Virgo, ascendant. Who are you? What are you doing in the world? How do we discover our identity? That's what the soul came here to do. Now, your descendant, which is the opposite of your ascendant, is the personality that the world sees you as. And yet it can also be part of our personality that we're afraid to reveal. And that, of course, because it's opposite of Virgo, is in Pisces. And Pisces wants you to connect with the world. Pisces will cause a flooding of emotion, perhaps from that time in your life when you underwent this loss that put you in transformation. That Pisces energy in your chart and your descendant is where the flooding will come in of the emotion, but it does that to bring you back to source, to return you to what's really meaningful in your life, to return you to the true security, which is not the attachment in the Scorpio archetype. The true security is source, God, Buddha, whatever you believe in, that's the higher power. which brings you to that 8th house of transformation, where the North Node is, so that you can come into your own solar light, your own identity, which, quite frankly, is transcendence and transformation. Your Sun is also in that house, even though it's in Aries, which leads me to believe that the reason why your soul here is here and the activation that it will take from all of this experience of loss and deep transformation is to be a light in the world, to shine, use your own personal resources to find your security and perhaps show others how to do that in some way. I just got a psychic little flash that showed me children. So maybe you even do that to do something to do with children in your life. And, you know, when we have a karmic axis and a karmic mission, our soul's intention, it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. You know, I read charts and sometimes people are just here to be a teacher, or someone's here to raise children, or, you know, so I think we all have to get out of that pop culture idea that we're all supposed to have these epiphanies and be doing these grand gestures in our life. I believe life is made up of everyday heroes, just as long as you're living your chart and doing your soul's intention. So that's my reading for you, Deborah. And if anything resonates with you, or you feel deeply about it, you know, call me. We'll book a reading. All right. Dawn Elizabeth, hope you're having a good night. So I want to read your chart. So you are and I didn't even look at these charts before I got on the air. So that reading I just did for Deborah was just done completely off the cuff, 10 minutes spent on her chart. Probably gave her some really meaningful information. This is what evolutionary astrology is all about. If you want to know if you're going to win lotto or get a vet, like, don't call me. But if you want to know what your soul's intention is in your life, how you can live it and raise your vibration in the world, then make the call. Okay, guys, that's just what I do. So we're all doing our soul space and our soul work in our soul space. So Dawn Elizabeth, you are a Sagittarius sun sign, Sag sun in the 9th house. So you're all about truth. You are here to find your personal truth, philosophy, higher learning, education, all the meaning of life. That is what makes you tick, baby. Sagittarius sun in the 9th house, and you've got Mercury there too. You're all about communicating that, all about communicating about philosophy, belief systems, truth, meaningful things. Your rising sign is a Pisces, which is all about connection, especially connection with the other side, spiritual world, things like that. Pisces is all about connection to source, coming back to source. And your that's your rising sign, and your moon is, where's your moon, honey? Oh, your moon is in Aries. Beautiful. So this is for you in order to find your identity in life. It's going to be a lot about taking up space where you really are meant to take up space and being present. That Aries moon wants to know you are present. It is in, I can't really tell from this reading, but I think it's in the 1st house, which means that this is all going to be all about you taking up presence and you taking up the right space that you need to in order to, what we just said, that sun in the 9th house in Sagittarius. What is the meaning of life? What is my belief system? How are my beliefs formed? This is all about that for you, especially with that Pisces rising, that connection to source. For you, your soul's intention in this life is quite a lot about relationships. Your life will evolve through relationships. It's Pluto in the 7th house, which is all about that. Of course, it's Pluto in Virgo. That's a generational thing. But with Pluto in that 7th house, you are probably going to learn and evolve through relationships and the configuration of yourself through others. The way that your soul will probably activate that in this lifetime is your North Node in your 4th house in Cancer, which is all about your inner landscape and your inner security. So there's probably been times in your life regarding these belief systems and your need to know truth and find meaning. There's probably times when you've been a little hesitant about doing that and maybe, you know, went back into your shell and was like, more or less, no, I really don't want to venture out too much, because that 9th house sun is all about the inner explorer. It's all about awakening that inner explorer to find what's deeply meaningful to you in life and your own philosophies and truth. That Cancer North Node archetype is going to be one where that truth is found deeply within you and then brought out to be configured by others and with others. So you need a lot of quiet time. You need a lot of downtime. This could also be a significator for me that in childhood or as a child, Perhaps you were given to be very quiet or withdrawn at times because of that Cancer energy. Your South Node is in Capricorn in the 10th house. So what I'm going to say to you is, if earlier in life you were more driven on the fast track, in the three-dimensional world, career, business, that climbing of the mountain, right, which is the Capricorn energy, your true intention, your true soul's intention is not that. Your soul's intention is the personal security and finding the true meaning of life. Capricorn, that South Node there, you've got your Venus there, which means that probably a lot of your desires are very Capricorn driven, wanting to climb that corporate ladder or do really well, be successful strategically. That's really not your heart. Your real true identity and your real truth lies in forming the security within yourself, not in the material world, and bringing that deep belief system and deep truths that you hold so dear to you through source and bringing them into finding your own security in that way. The idea of the 10th house Capricorn energy that you have is not just climbing the ladder and to get to the top of the mountain. The real truth of the Capricorn archetype is getting to the top of that mountain and realizing there's a whole lot more of the world. And that's where your 9th house sun in Sagittarius comes in. So the soul's intention in this lifetime is to find the true meaning in your life. The soul is going to actualize that by relationships and how you're configured to relationships. Your past life, your past energy, and your conditioning was probably one from family, from tradition, was probably one where it was about the material world and being successful in a very materialistic way, climbing that ladder. But that's not where your truth really lies. And you're going to come to know as your life progresses through relationship with others and that configuration, and also through the deep meaning, being introspective and finding your safety in your own belief system and really igniting that explorer within and awakening that explorer to find your solar light. And that's your purpose in life. So that's the Dawn Elizabeth reading, and I hope you love that, and I hope some of that resonated with you. And if you want to go deeper, if anything in that touched you, you can definitely contact me for a deeper reading. And, whenever I do a soul contract reading and a soul intention reading for somebody, oftentimes things come in where we can also look at the trajectory you're on and where it's meant to go. And I can look at that through progressions, and I can also just look at that psychically through the chart and say, this is really where you want to focus for the next year or so. I think about astrology, and also since I do read charts psychically, for me, they're a gateway into your soul's intention. I think about that as a checkup. Like we go to the doctor a couple of times a year, we go for an annual physical, or we go every couple of months for something. That's astrology. You really have to keep going and keep coming back. Have a personal astrologer that you see every 3 months or twice a year in order to really stay on top of what your soul's intention is. What is the energy and how can I best be guided to utilize it? Really is so important in our lives. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's show, and I hope you also take my advice and set some of those boundaries. And if you have some advice for those of us in the Zencuda Soul Space community on boundaries, please comment below. And don't forget to share the show. You can also watch repeats on my Zencuda on YouTube, and also on Spotify. If you just want to listen in the car or listen while you're cleaning the house or doing some tasks, you can just ask for me on Spotify, Soul Space by Georgia Rose. And if you're home doing stuff, just hanging around, and you've got Alexa, you can ask Alexa to play the Soul Space by Georgia Rose, and your Alexa will just play me in my podcast. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you all next week right here in the Soul Space podcast with Georgia Rose. And if you haven't already, join the Zencuda community, Facebook, Zencuda Soul Space, and on Instagram, Zencuda Official, and also on our YouTube. And I just started to do a beautiful platform on Substack where you can find a lot of my writing and a lot of my blog, not just about astrology, but also about my own personal experience on the journey to self-discovery. So thanks for joining me in the Soul Space. I'll see you all next week.
Hi everybody, I'm Stephen Michael. Come follow me every Saturday night at 10:30 p.m. Channel 115 on the Keeping It Real with Stephen Michael show. Come hang out with me and DJ Brian as we play your favorite music. We have your motivational messages, and I promise you, you'll leave a happier person. The show is all about faith, mental health awareness, and motivational messages. I'll see you every Saturday night, 10:30 p.m., channel 115, where the insanity begins.
And all your problems make you wanna scream and shout. Keeping it real with Steve and Michael. Never give up, Steve and Michael.
Hi, I'm Georgia Rose, founder of Zencuda. You can watch me on the Soul Space podcast every Friday at noon on Channel 20 for spiritual guidance. And as you all know, that is how I first opened into my own psychic gifts, was through the angelic realm, astrology. And we've got Mars and the Sun together in Scorpio, which creates a lot of combustion. In the astrological world, we call that a kazemi, and tarot. With the Four of Cups right side up, it means we have a lot of choices to make, and we're not looking at what's really being divinely given to us. We're too busy in the busyness of the choices to really see the divine intervention, the divine timing, and the divine guidance. We're the place. Watch the Soul Space podcast.